Every day I wake up and I feel like I'm in a Scooby-Doo moment. And basically, if you remember Scooby-Doo, you pull off the mask and you find out who the villain is. And it turns out to be Old Man Musk. And Old Man Musk is like, yeah, and I would have gotten away with it. Wasn't for you meddling kids. That's where we are, guys. I know I make jokes. I try to make fun out of this kind of stuff. But really frank, it's how I stay sane. The news today is really scary. I don't know how else to put it. Musk is getting involved in German politics even more than before. And I'll read some headlines and we'll go through it. It says right here, Elon Musk pens German newspaper opinion piece supporting far-right AfD party. And this is Musk. He's even tweeting it out just like an hour ago. My opinion piece in Weld. So again, he's siding with the far right in Germany, and even more aggressively, he put opinion piece in their newspaper. This is the person that I guess he's working with now, Alice Weidel. And basically, if you want to read it, I'll go over it. This is the translation. It says from Elon Musk. The AfD has understood that economic freedom is not only desirable but necessary. Their approach to reducing government overregulation, cutting taxes, and deregulating the market reflects the principles that I have made at Tesla and SpaceX successful. And so you may look at this and be like, well, this is pretty innocuous. It's kind of the same stuff he says in the USA. But you do some digging into these people's platforms and stuff like that, and it's not that hard to find. Just a few days ago, it says here, far right rival puts Germany's EU exit on the ballot. It's like, gee, where have we heard this before? And you can ask our friends in UK. This is essentially the same playbook. It feels like it to me, to be perfectly frank. Musk is also supporting the far right leader in the UK, who is a big Brexit person, right? Nigel Farage. And this guy sounds like Trump. I was listening to a little bit of this, and he's basically bragging about how many followers he has on social media. It really is like a Trump kind of guy. And then now Musk is supporting, this person. I guess we're talking about pulling out of the EU. I didn't even know that was a thing, guys. I didn't know Germany was talking about it. So I need to hear from our German friends and our European friends. Is this how strong of a movement is this? And honestly, it really feels like to me, if you want to go down that route, and I've talked to Europeans about this before, where the Putin influence is real. Essentially, he's looking for ways, and talking about Putin here, looking for ways to, how can you break up the EU? How can you break up NATO, right? Trying to convince Trump to pull out of NATO, this kind of stuff. How can you convince Germany to leave EU, convince UK to leave EU? I mean, it only benefits Russia. I don't know what else to say. I think it's obvious here. You read and it gets even worse. You read the description of this article, and I'll just read a little bit so you guys can hear it. It says, Alice Weidel, the long shot chancellor candidate from the far right Alternative for Germany, slammed the European Union for destroying the country's auto industry and proposed winding back the bloc to a free trade zone. And if you understand the significance and the history of this, and I'll read it again. Alice Weidel, the long shot chancellor candidate from the far right. What else? What more do you need to know? And if you don't know your history, basically after World War One, Mr. Mustache guy, you guys know what I'm talking about, over in Germany, rose to power by basically saying, guys, the problem here in Germany is all these other countries are taking advantage of us, and this certain group of people is evil, etc. And it's the same kind of stuff, right? And it's frustrating to see. As I said, I make jokes in the beginning, but when I saw this, we don't want this. I'll just be really clear. We don't want this. We don't want these far right movements in Germany, UK, in USA, etc. And it's going to Canada too. Musk is promoting the far right people over there. It's every country, and essentially the mask of Musk is coming off. One of the editors at the newspaper who printed the comment, I guess you call it the opinion piece by Musk, she quit, actually. This was Eva Marie Kogel. And I always want to make this really clear in these situations. Say in the USA situation, it feels like everyone's turning MAGA or whatever. No, they're not. And is everyone turning far right in Germany? No, they're not. So, there's that, right? There's going to be people who understand history, the significance of this stuff. So like Eva Marie Kogel, she says, in the translation, I always enjoyed heading the opinion section of Welt and Worms. Today, an article by Elon Musk appeared in Welt and Sonntag. I handed in my resignation yesterday after it went to print, right? So, she was so disappointed in her publication that she quit. And again, Musk is supporting the far right and, the quote long shot chancellor. So that stuff, pretty frank, it worries me. We also talked about the fight going on with Musk and the immigration stuff, and it's kind of interesting because if you understand the whole Musk stuff, he basically is trying to support immigration policy in the USA to get cheap workers for him that are indentured servants. Is the the best way to put it. And there's been disputes on the right side in the USA on like how do we talk about immigration. It's funny, I've been noticing some really interesting themes that are coming out of this. First, for example, you have this Bannon guy. You guys know who this is. It's one of the Trump's people. And I guess he's referring to Musk as a toddler now. So there's infighting going on over there. Then you got the MGT or Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's one of the more radical people in the USA. If you guys don't know, she's a conspiracy theorist, and she talks about space lasers and people controlling the weather, these kind of things. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, she's nuts. I do want to read through some of the stuff that she's saying because it sort of illustrates the divide that we're seeing in the on the right politics, or I should say right-leaning politics in the USA, or MAGA politics. Essentially, you got the tech MAGA versus the I don't know what you want to call it, the worker MAGA, however you want to call these people. But our Marjorie Taylor Greene, this is what she said. She says, "Good gracious, I came out of Christmas bliss to see arguments about the American labor versus H-1B or imported labor, and MAGA split over the issue." So I guess she's calling it American labor versus imported labor. Good that everyone is engaged in saving this country. Here's some tough reality for you. And she has a message for MAGA, basically. There are some big MAGA voices with large social media platforms. She's probably referring to Musk's or your Laura Loomers and just, people who are on social media, throwing down their opinions, yet they have never run a company that relies on thousands of skilled, highly trained workers with a constant need for reliable labor, yet they claim authority over the subject matter. She also says, when you spend years trying to constantly hire, train, maintain a good, reliable workforce, which is a 24/7, never-ending cycle, your real-world experience will produce an opinion based on reality, and all of your followers on X don't translate to this. Having owned a construction company for decades, yes, I'm that old, I know firsthand our workforce issues. And it's funny when she mentioned this, and I just don't know. I don't know the history of Marjorie Taylor Greene in terms of her hiring, but I was like, I wonder if she's hired illegals. That's the first thing that came to my mind, and I don't know the answer to that. But I'll just say I wouldn't be shocked if she has it, but I don't know. So if anyone has any info on that, let me know. But it's interesting that she said that she went with that. She also says here, however, I believe we must make the hard and necessary changes here in the U.S. to educate, build, and facilitate a solid foundation of knowledgeable, highly skilled, talented, well-paid American workers. She kind of contradicts herself as we'll go through this, as you'll see. She also says here, not having this like having a crumbling foundation in our house, and currently we are importing foreigners to hold up the foundation walls and plug the leaks. What's odd about these Republican people is you guys know they are all about defunding public education, right? So she's talking about we need education, we have high skilled workers, and now she's talking about, well, because we don't have these things, we need to import foreigners. That's what they're saying here. She also says here, too many of our young people are killing their bodies and minds on alcohol and drugs, wasting years and money earning useless college degrees. So she's attacking education here, chasing unrealistic dreams, spending all their time trying to be the next YouTuber, content creator, social media influencer instead of pursuing a useful skill set, trade, education in order to become part of the much needed American workforce, right? So she's criticizing college degrees and then saying you should go into the trades. And actually, I don't disagree. I think trades are a valuable skill and a much needed skill in the USA. But it is more complicated than sort of how she's saying it. And I also want to go through a little bit more, and then I'll share some more thoughts. She also says here, if you fall in this category, put down the selfie light and go apply for a job and replace the H-1B visa holders and all other skilled labor jobs that foreigner workers are taking and American companies are desperately trying to hire. It's called building a career. It's called, according to Marjorie Taylor Greene, you work your way up. In order to go forward, we must change our education system, create a culture that respects hard work and productivity, cut government waste, spending, and regulations in order to produce a healthy, robust economy that lowers inflation and pays higher wages to an American workforce so that the H-1B is no longer needed and can be done away with. And there's so many things in here that are contradictory. I just wanted to show you kind of what they're saying. And I just sigh. But let me read a comment from our community to respond to this kind of rhetoric. So this is from Terry. Terry says, and this is a few minutes ago, Terry says, there are plenty of great engineers in America. The problem is that we don't want to be underpaid and overworked by Musk. Remember when he and Trump were laughing about just firing employees that tried to unionize? And Terry's referring to, there's a podcast with Musk and Trump. And Trump was like, oh yeah, Musk, you're great because you fired people. You're fired, right? And that's what they're bragging about. And essentially, people like Musk and Trump, they like to intimidate their workers. And Musk has constantly railed against unions. That's been something that he does. I don't know if Trump rails against union all the time. I have to look back all the nonsense that Trump says. But I'll just say this: Trump and Musk are not pro-worker. That part I do know. And it's obvious from their actions, not just their words, but their actions. So, as Terry is saying, there are plenty of great engineers in America, right? It says here, that's why he wants to get employees from out of the country because they are easier to abuse. Elon wants America apartheid. He comes from South Africa where abusing labor is de rigueur. One thing that I'll say about the Musk thing, when he took over Twitter, a lot of people quit. He also fired a lot of people. The people who didn't quit, and the way Musk described it was like, if you want to work for me, you got to be hardcore mode, which is like, work all the time, 24/7, work holidays, that kind of stuff. And it's actually something that's reported in Musk's book, and we just know this from multiple reports that, Musk will have these emergency holidays where, like literally a holiday, call you up and say, you got time to go to work. And, most people don't like that. You want to spend your holiday with your family. But that's the kind of person Musk is. And he, even when he did the whole Twitter thing, they had it so like people were sleeping in the office, right? And he was like praising people for that. And this, this is not necessarily conducive for a healthy work life, like sleeping in the office. And then they had and the whole Twitter thing was a fiasco. Now I remember all this nonsense. If you guys, were early subscribers to my channel, you remember when we talked about this stuff, but basically then they got called for inspection codes because like you can't have people living at your office if it's not, equipped for that. It's an office, not a hotel. I'm laughing because it's like there was so much incompetence with Musk when the whole Twitter deal. But basically it boils down, yes, they want a bunch of cheap workers. So it's kind of crazy when Marjorie Green is guys, forget about those, useless college degrees, etc. And this person right here is like, well, hey, I have an engineering degree. I can't get a job because, essentially companies want to abuse workers and underpay people. And, and then you'll get these messages from the Republicans. I'll give you another example. This is the Patrick Bet David. He's another person you'll see on YouTube. He says, as an immigrant from Iran, I saw this in Edge. I didn't mind working 80 hours a week. I didn't mind the competition. All I wanted was a shot. This used to be the American way. Time to return to it. Take a minute to read. And it's like, when I look at this thing, I'm just like, okay. So I guess all of these Republicans, these basically people who are supporting the Musk and Trump CEO class, the billionaire class, they're like, guys, let's go back to the old ways. Let's work 80 hours a week. Yeah, that's a good idea. and it's funny too. And I, think about this out loud is when, Trump's promising those people old factory jobs. I'm like, okay, let's just go back to the early, industrial age where we had child laborers, all these kind of stuff. And it's like, I guess that's where we're going to, right? And it kind of fits in, right? If all these people are against worker unions and, they're always against raising the minimum wage, these kind of things, you kind of see where this is going. And it's so strange to me that anyone supports these people. I don't. I mean, I get what it is, and essentially what the messages that they put out there is like, well, the reason for your problems is just group of other people that you really shouldn't like, and it's kind of like those messages from Germany way back in the past of, hey, that long shot chancellor who could possibly win, and like I said, it's sad to see this stuff happening, and it's so obvious if you know history, and it's also obvious too from these people's actions. And I, like I said, I try to make jokes about this stuff, but when I let this stuff sink in, I feel really really unhappy about the state of the world. I'll put it that way. But I always remind myself, and if we're having these chats together, there are still enough sane people out there that can see it. And so that's why it's important to share what is going on, and so to raise awareness how a lot of these people, or all of them, however you want to put it, the Musks and the Trumps and the, I guess, MGTs and the Patrick, Bet Davids, or these people's names are, they are frauds, and selling you lies, and they scam. I mean, this is just part of what it is. When I first started talking about the Musk stuff, and we mostly would just talk about the stock price and what the company's up to, and basically Musk sells a bunch of vaporware products, stuff that'll never come to market, and his net worth is based on basically pushing lies. That's basically what it is. And if you don't know, Musk has a group of people on social media that he pays to promote his lies. That's what it is. And it's crazy the world that we live in, because these days, and if you do social media every day, you'll see it. For those of you guys that don't see it all the time, it's hard to explain, but like literally I see it. I tell you about it, and because I see it, there are fake comments up the wazoo out there. You'll know it when you'll see it. Trust me. It's like it'll be the one account will post the same comment like 30 times, and like 30 different videos of my channel. You'll see it, and it doesn't really make sense. Like the English is a little bit weird, or they'll refer to me as like that YouTuber, that kind of stuff. They won't actually use my name. Or they'll say more general stuff praising Trump or praising Musk, but it doesn't really fit the video. You'll know it when you see it. And that's sort of why when I tell you guys, like, I think going forward in the future, right, it's all going to be about community, because we're going to get sick of this sort of bot interactions. And that's what, if you ever go look at and this is sort of why, I do the grunt work for you guys, to be very frank. If you look at the Musk stuff and all these, people who supposedly support, Musk, one, they could either be real people but paid, or two, which is also true, there could be a bunch of people that are just easily fooled. That's certainly a possibility. And then there's just a bunch of fake accounts out there. And the other thing that goes on is Musk, pushes all this fake narratives with fake accounts constantly. A lot of his accounts too are possibly controlled by him or people who work for him, because there's a group of accounts that always are like kissing his butt basically all the time, or licking his billionaire boots. But this is the world that we live in, and you need to learn to be able to see through the nonsense. So my advice is just be careful out there. Please take care of yourself, and sometimes if you get depressed about stuff, because guys, I know, because sometimes people say, Chris, this stuff gives me anxiety, etc. And I just say, just remind yourself that you're not alone in this world, right? And that's why I feel comforted from knowing you guys are all out there. And the other thing is too, we need to raise up our youth right. Be good parents, be good friends, be good mentors. And you got to point out, it's like, and it's kind of like, for those of you who are old enough, the whole Star Wars analogy, if you go down the dark side, amazing. It's like the quick and easy way to quote, success. But, sometimes it takes the clear-headed mind and calm down your nerves, and I guess do the Jedi way in a way, and choose the right path. Because ultimately, in the long term, you'll have a much more fulfilling life. And I know a lot of people get easily sucked into this sort of right-wing rhetoric stuff, but it is what it is, and hopefully it won't be everybody. I don't think it is. That's why you have to nip it early in the bud and point out this stuff. So I do appreciate your time, everyone. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.